Bill, another exciting time, obviously, 3 debutants.
Yeah.
How was that last night, making those phone calls?
To be fair, I was probably just as nervous, if not more nervous, than some of the players receiving the calls. And I know what they're going through when they receive that first phone call to play for Queensland, and it never leaves you. And it was some exciting times for some young men that have worked really hard to get to this point.
Biggest talking point, Robert Toya, 10 games in, 20 years old. It's an unbelievable story.
Yeah.
Was he always going to be there, or was it because of injuries that he came into the selection to be in the centre?
Well, like Dobbo, things change all the time, and we had some things happen last night that were out of our control. So you've just got to sit down and I've always said, you wait until that selection time, you get all the health reports, and then you build Queensland's best team, and that's what we felt we've done. Robert Toya, I've been watching him closely, not just the stuff that he does with the football, but he's got great principles in his game. I know his coach at the Roosters has got a really high opinion of that part of his game, and that was one of the phone calls last night that was one that I'll remember, for a long time, let alone one that he'll remember. And I'm really happy for him. I'm happy for his family. I'm sure there would have been some good moments talking to his family and delivering that news to them. They probably, travelled far and wide to take him to junior games throughout his years, and now they get to come to this place at Suncorp Stadium and watch their boy play for Queensland.
What have you played him in his favourite position at centre too, Billy, and we've seen Queensland over the years of put people out of position on the wings, etc., like some of the greats. We've really backed him there and put him in the centres. Why did you make that?
Yeah, I think he's a world-class centre. I think he's a top-line centre, and although he's only 10 games into his NRL career, he's been through a bit of adversity. Like I said, I know his coach has got a really high opinion of him, and watching the principles that he has in his game, we think he's of origin class. So looking forward to having him a part of our team, and looking forward to helping get his game on and build his game into our footy team.
Talking about adversity, both Moore has been through it. He's been through ACLs when he was a young guy, and then another one. And really, in a team that hasn't been that great, he stood out. Why did you pick him? Because it's a great story.
Yeah, he's a team first player, and he's worked really hard. He was pretty close a couple of years ago, Bo, before he tore his ACL, and he's worked really hard, like he's captain at the Titans, to get back and play the footy that he's playing, and he's a welcomed inclusion, and certainly earned the opportunity.
What do you expect Templeiro to bring on your bench for it?
Yeah, he's another one that's worked really hard. I'm fortunate that I work with Melbourne every week, and I see what he's put into his game. Over the last 18 months, he was an 18th man, in our squad last year, and you're not an 18th man, just for the number. You're there because you're playing of a quality that this standard of footy team upholds, and that's what Trent's done. I think he's gone to another level over the last 12 months since he's been in that position, and he's another guy that's earned that opportunity.
Do you think playing with a look?
Yeah. Look, I think they've all got great credentials. Tommy Dearden's taken his game to another level, and he can fill a number of positions, and we all know the competitiveness that Tom plays with. We all know the toughness that Tommy plays with, and whatever position you put him out on the field, he's going to do a great job. So, look at you always think about all different scenarios because you don't know what you're going to be dealt with, when it comes to selection. But really happy with those 3 guys, Munster, Tommy, and obviously our captain in Daley.
Did you get a chance to talk to Tom Gilbert? I know he wasn't known, but obviously he would have been a big play in that side. Did you manage to have a chat to him, because he would be heartbroken?
Yeah, not yet, but that will happen. I've got a good relationship with Tom, and been in communications with him at the start of the year. I think he's come back again, another guy that's come back from not just one injury, but several. The last time he played for Queensland, he had his arm hanging down and he still wanted to stay out on the field, and that's the type of player and type of person Tom Gilbert is. Look, I really feel for those sort of guys because they, footy's their life. They put so much into it, and I know how hard they work and what they sacrifice, and now this opportunity to play for Queensland right now has been taken away from him through another injury. So, I feel for Tom, but I certainly will be picking up the phone over the next couple of days.
Bill, obviously there's some players that were unlucky and missed out. Corey Horsbury's form's been very good. He would have come into consideration and obviously just missed out. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a number of players, and it's unfortunately only 17 players can play for Queensland in game one. That doesn't mean that those players that missed out won't get another opportunity. I think you need two things, to be at this level. The first thing, you need to be playing of the standard of this footy team and what they've created over the last few years. And the second thing is the opportunity needs to arise, and he's certainly ticking one of those boxes, Corey, and as to a number of players. When that opportunity arises, I'm sure they'll take their opportunity.
Bill, just on that, fair bit of change on the weekend. It must have been tricky to watch. You've already talked about Gilbert, but certainly Paddy Carrigan, a fair few going down in the Broncos game. Were you, thinking right up to the last minute, or had you sort of made a decision on your side?
Yeah, you've got a bit of an idea. Probably the last month you've got a bit of an idea, and then obviously things get taken out of your hands, and you need to be able to move, and that's why the last 11 weeks is, the time that I've spent watching our players is really important. I need to give my role the respect it deserves, and make sure that I understand all the options and what habits those players have got in their game, because essentially the habits that they've got in their game, that's what they're going to bring to our footy team or Queensland's footy team, and that's what I've done. So when you have to move and be agile, you've got that knowledge in the bank.
And what about Paddy? What do you think of big Paddy?
Paddy got plastic surgery last night, and I'm not sure if he needed it. He might be just a bit worried about his looks, Paddy.
He's right though. That the Broncos said he'd be right. Yeah. And that's the mail you got. He'll be right.
Yeah. Look, I think whenever you get contact to the face and he's got a laceration on his lip, I think that the main focus is more the structural damage. And from all reports, I spoke to Paddy last night, and his jaw's all fine. He's got stitched up. He's in great spirits, and he's looking forward to getting into camp.
How important is it to win game one, Billy? I mean, look, you're on the road this year. It's a bit of a different scenario for you, where you've got to go away twice.
Yeah.
You lost last year's series
correct.
As well. So
where does your finger on the pulse, haven't you, Joel?
But seriously, with this game, and you've changed your preparation a bit too, going up to the Twin Waters. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, look, I think obviously the result of game one's really important, but at the same time it's important for us to go after our game and go and find what our game looks like. Chase that through the next 10 days and really earn that, and then we'll give ourselves the best chance to play well here next Wednesday night. And hopefully that will take care of the result. So. Although the result's important, it's the process that we're going to go through the next 10 days that we really need to focus on. A little bit of a change, heading up to Twin Waters. That's a great opportunity for the people of the Sunshine Coast to come and see their footy team train. I think we're going to have a pretty big day there on Sunday at Sunshine Coast Stadium, and hopefully we can get plenty of Queenslanders out there supporting their footy team. And sometimes the change isn't the worst thing, and looking forward to heading up there.
And just in the background too, just finally, for me, the 1995 side, you're honouring that team with your jersey. Also, they're giving you the lunches, and just the reminder to Queensland, I suppose, of what you can achieve no matter what.
I think it's always important to acknowledge your history, the history of this jersey, and it's been going around for decades now, and 30 years this year is the 95 series, which is it was one that everyone remembers, because obviously there was no Super League players available, and a lot of the Queensland stars weren't available to play for the state. So players come from reserve grade, players come from there was a lot of youth in there. I think our CEO at the QRL, Ben Eichen, was there as a 17-year-old. So it's a good reminder of opportunities out there to play for your state, and Fatty Vorton did a great job in coaching that team. So there might be some memories and some remembering of what they did back then in this series, but at the same time, this is 2025, and we need to make sure that this year's going to be remembered.
Bill, at the weekend, all 4 Queensland teams lost, and of course, only one Queensland team's in the top 8, that's the Cowboys. So how important can this camp be to getting the mindset right for some of those players who have had losing records this year in the NRL?
Yeah, they're not all full Queenslanders though. They're not all coached by Queenslanders. So I know they are located in Queensland, but a lot of Queenslanders play for other clubs too. So we've got players flying from Melbourne, players flying from Sydney. So they're coming from all different areas. I think there's only one Bronco in our Queensland team at the moment, which I don't know if I've seen for a long time. But Queenslanders are flush throughout the NRL. They're not just in the Queensland clubs.
Is that a concern to you that only one Bronco? I mean, we talk about some of the great Queensland times, there was about 10 or 11 at times.
No, not for me.
Not for you?
No.
Yeah, but is it a concern? I guess you mentioned one.
Why would it be a concern?
Well, when Queensland teams are going well, there's a lot of Queenslanders in that team you may have picked if they were winning.
There's a lot of Queenslanders throughout the whole NRL. It's not just any. I don't think there's any less Queenslanders in the NRL just because the Queensland-based teams aren't playing well. So, I don't read.
Queensland's
I don't read
holding out for you though, Bill. I think they're holding out for this Origin series because the sides aren't going so well.
Well, this is their team. This is Queensland's true team. So everyone's got their NRL team. This team you don't necessarily pick. Like I never remembered picking Queensland as a team. It picked me, and that's why it's so big. That's why we get the opportunity to play in such an atmosphere, because you don't generally pick it; it picks you. Yeah. 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 Yeah, good question. Look, the first thing I'll say is we weren't good enough to win last year. New South Wales played a better style of football, and they deserved their victory. And it's up to us to find our best football. Be clear about that. Like you said, we don't get the opportunity to go and review and sit down and play 27 rounds. It's a series of 3, so we've got to be pretty sharp from the start, and that'll be our focus leading into the next 10 days.
Well, you picked the team for...
Yeah, look, the last 45 years has been aggressive. It's been that style of arena, and that's why we all love it, right? So, looking forward to seeing Tino wear a Maroon jersey again, and lead that middle of the field. He's such a warrior. I still remember the early stages of Tino's career before he even became an NRL player, and I was still playing down at Melbourne, and some of the things at training, the traits that he has, the toughness, he's got those qualities in his game, and when you bring those qualities into a group, they're infectious, and he's a real leader. I'm looking forward to helping him get his game on and being the player he can be next Wednesday night.
You picked the team for a specific reason, Billy. What style of footy do you think you're going to play?
Yeah, that's something that we'll knuckle down now over the next couple of days and work out. The players are still coming into camp today, and they'll have a big say on how they want to play. I feel that's really important, and then us as coaches will help them go and get after it. And so we'll build that over the next few days, and then go and get after it in our training.
Can I just ask you about DCE, mate? I remember he said a few months ago that he was going to think about Origin, make a decision about that, and then move on to his club situation.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the process talking to him? Have you known for a long time that he was going to play for Queensland, put his hand up? Because it's a difficult decision to make sometimes for an older player. How did that all unfold?
To be honest, Joel, I haven't spoken to a whole heap of players over the last 11 weeks. I've let them go and go and play their footy and just watch their actions. But he's one guy that I've been in communication with. Sat down and had breakfast with him probably about 6 weeks ago, and then had another phone call with him a few weeks ago after that. So, yeah, he's very clear in what he wants, and he's a real passionate Queenslander. He's always showed that. He's led this team extremely well, and I think he's played 25 or something Origin, so he's really experienced. He's really important to us, and yeah, like I said, like before, looking forward to helping him be at his best, because you know the best Daley, Cherry Evans is pretty influential in the footy team.
If I can tell you about possible contract.
Coming up against Stephen Crichton or Charles Mitchell over 10 games into his career, the magic round here against Kofi Farnworth. Is that a moment that sort of made you go, he could really fit into this arena even if he is so young? Yeah,
not just that. He's stood up every time he's played. He's been one of the more consistent players for the Roosters, and although playing in the centres, it is man on man out there, but it is a system, and he's a great system player. He's got some good strengths as well that they need to defend him as well. So, like I said, hopefully we can bring him into the game. The likes of Munster and Cherry Evans and Kalen Ponga, and he's playing with some handy players that hopefully he's going to get some ball in some good situations and be pretty dangerous himself.
You mentioned the adversity that he went through just to get a debut. It was 3 season injuries before even that. Is that something you look at the selection table, the character that it has to show to get through that at such a young age?
Well, character is really important, because that's what you're going to lean on when you get tired out there, and you can't go down to Coles and buy that. You've got to go through it, and he's been through that. That's a part of his journey and part of his life. And although he's only 10 games in, he's had some disappointment, and talking to him last night was he's going to bring a lot of energy, as to the other 2 debutants.
Bill, how do you ensure that the contract dramas we've seen with DCE don't drag into Queensland camp?
Well, everyone's under contract, and everyone's looking for a new contract, so it's just a well publicised one. I don't think he's very experienced. I don't think it's going to affect him. Certainly won't affect the rest of the team, but he's a very professional guy, and the personal stuff is dealt with them. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, no.
Kalen seems to have been a bit down in his own form at Clubland. How do you unlock the best of him? You've obviously been happy enough with what you've seen with him.
Yeah, pretty exciting challenge, isn't it? Yeah, I'm fortunate enough that I played that position, and I love what Kalen brings to a footy team, and helping him be at his best really excites me, and that's something that I'm looking forward to.
Bill, obviously Laurie named his team last night. Do you guys have a look at what they've done and how we can counter that, or how Queensland can counter that, or is that just something that plays out over the next week or so?
Yeah, it'd be pretty ignorant of us to just totally ignore the opposition's footy team, and one thing we did know, whichever way they were going to go, and I don't think there's any surprises in their team, is it was always going to be strong. One player's in, they've got certain strengths, another player comes in, they've got certain strengths, and that's what we'll dive into over the next couple of days and work out what strengths that they bring to the game, and try and defend that as best we can. But the best form of a defence is attack too, so we've got to get our game on. If we get our game on, then that'll take a lot of their strengths away from them, or limit them, and that'll help us with our defence. So yeah, certainly not ignorant and disrespectful to the opposition. I've got so much respect for not just the opposition players, but the opposition coaching staff. They're good people, and they know about the game, so we're not naive to know what we're up against.
Well done, Bill.
Thanks, guys.